Hi, this is Jimbo with Altcoin Buzz. Thanks for tuning in for another TA segment on today, the 7th of December. In today's video, we're going to glance our eyes over Bitcoin and see if we can determine where it might be moving next. We're going to revisit a couple of the altcoins which we've been watching in our previous videos and seeing what sort of performances that they've achieved. And also, there is one more altcoin that I want to show you guys a pattern that I may have identified. And we are also going to revisit the altcoin dominance chart today, just to see how that's shaping up. You may remember we looked at that a few videos ago, and we were saying that that could be our leading indicator to determining whether or not we're going to see a altcoin run. On that note, we have seen some pretty big gains across the altcoin market on some particular coins. So you know that's always quite a nice little note to ourselves that something's going on there when some coins are pushing 300-400% in a few months. That's usually a pretty bullish sign for the altcoins, but we're not there yet. We know that. Guys, we're also going to jump on in and start a new giveaway today for the CryptoTag device. If you guys want to find out how you can enter that competition, and make sure to stick around to the end of the video, I will be letting you guys know how you can join. With all that being said, guys, let's jump in and start straight away on the Bitcoin one-day chart, as we normally do. And if you have been watching for some time now, you will recognize the lines that I have highlighted here, our blue falling wedge pattern and our red support lines, support/resistance lines. In the last video, I think we'd just broken into this wedge, and we were anticipating a breakdown to the bottom end of the wedge, and that's exactly what we saw once it did break down. Now, what's happened since then? So since then, we've had a big candle bounce wick, and we have jumped and retested our upper resistance line of this blue wedge. Now, we're yet to break it. We are testing it today yet again. You can see we've got a wick here, a bit of a rejection wick so far, but there's plenty of the day left to go, so we'll have to keep a really keen eye on that, and we'll jump down to the lower time frames in a moment to see if we can get any better idea of where that's going to take us. But as we've said previously, if we keep on this macro view, on this just on the daily view for now, you can see that we have stiff resistance to break through, and even if we are to break this blue wedge resistance, we will still have to reface this red line, which we know has been quite significant on several occasions. You can see the support being acted and support over here, and when we did break it, we break with a big candle, and we break it to the upside, we break with a big green candle. So we all want to be perma bulls, and we'd like to see that we see one huge green wick over the next couple of days, which blasts us through both of these and gets us up towards testing that red 200 daily moving average that we focused on so much, because as we are currently underneath it, it is considered a bear market. But let's jump down to some lower time frames. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly down to the 4-hour chart and see what the pattern looks like there for us, and see if we can determine anything else. Well, so what we've got going on here, guys. Now, we have just touched in the last 3 candles this blue resistance line that we're watching, and our stochastic RSIs are now giving us that negative blue-orange cross that we look out for. So the 4-hour chart seems to be suggesting most likely we're going to be dropping back down again. Now, does that mean that we're going to go on and test the bottom of this blue wedge again down here at 6,003, 6,400? Too early to say. I think that the most important thing for us is to watch this 50 exponential moving average, because it's quite important in my opinion. And if we break back down that with any real volume, then there's a good chance that we will not see a huge deal of support. Maybe might find a bit of support in the 7,000 region, where you can see we've got quite a lot of these wicks that drop below but closed above. So 7,000 as a psychological level, that's quite key as well. But if we break down below 7,000, I think it's quite fair to say we can expect to see 6,400. And of course, the inverse of that, guys, is that we see in the next few candles this 7 exponential moving average holds a support for us on the 4-hour. We see a couple of big green candles, and we go on and we test up towards this red resistance line up here at 8,000. Either way, guys, this blue resistance line of the upper wedge is still our absolute imperative guide. We're watching to see if it can break. I'm going to overlay one more line here, which would act as a increasing support. So we're going to put this line across here. Now this would be really, really interesting to watch. Now, I'm looking to make trades today, possibly over the weekend at some point. Remember, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just letting you guys know what I see on the charts when I'm looking at them and how I view things. But this is what I personally am going to be looking for. Sorry about that. I'm personally going to be looking for this green line here. Now, this looks, as you can see, we've got a couple of touches off it, which gives us a confirmed support line to watch. Now, if we were to break down and break the 50, and that then pushes us through to break this support line, that's when I'm going to be looking to make a short personally. As I've always say, our risk and reward ratios are probably very different. But I'm going to be watching this support line, because if that breaks, I'm going to be anticipating some downside towards the 7k region, possibly a little bit further down, and I think there's a trade there to be played. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that pretty closely. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin continues to struggle to really push up at the moment. I think we all know, certainly you guys that are still here now in the midst of this time, whilst interest is absolutely at its lowest, you guys know we're here for the long game. This isn't just a daily thing. We're not here to get rich quick. That's not really the idea, is it? The idea is to build ourselves into part of the future, and to take advantage of that financially. Just my approach, of course. If that's a possibility, I'm going to try and benefit financially through playing these Bitcoin price moves correctly. But again, I think it's important for me to add that I don't get it right every time. And I guess I think anyone on the YouTube who tells you they're 100% right 100% all the time, you have to view with some skepticism, because at the end of the day, no one's perfect, and you know, it's all opinion based. This is very subjective and opinion based. But that being said, guys, let's go and have a look at a couple of ones that I did happen to get right. First of all, let's go back and visit the Matic chart. Now, the last time we were talking about Matic on a video, I think we'd already seen this pop up sort of 50% from where we mentioned it. But the initial video, we were speaking about entering if it broke the 220 level here, around this area, because what happened was we'd seen this ascending triangle break, and what I was saying was I was looking to see a break of this top wick here, here back from June 2019, and I was saying that I thought that was a pretty significant area, and if we broke that, that was when we were going to start seeing really big gains off Matic. And well, look how it played out. We went up above this line. You can see the red candle here. We went up above, came back down and closed below. The very next day we had this monstrous engulfing bullish candle, absolutely massive, which blasted us through, and we've pretty much been heading up ever since. If you had entered at the 220 Satoshi area, you would have so far seen a maximum gain return at 154%, which is some pretty nice returns. Next, or just before I do stop visiting this, I'm just going to say, not yet seen a clear indication that this is topped, other than the fact that our stochastics are starting to lean down towards coming back down, pointing the momentum back downwards, sorry. We haven't exactly seen a bearish engulfment or anything here. Our RSI has actually peaked slightly higher on the second high point here. You can see that it hasn't dropped down, so there's no bearish divergence there, which is good to see. I will certainly be suggesting that you keep a very keen eye on this 7 daily exponential moving average, because as you can see, once we did have that big engulfing candle, it's been running up along this 7 exponential moving average quite nicely, and I think a break of that would be a pretty clear indicator that the trend is reversing. But as of yet, we're not seeing that. So you know, if you are in this, my personal approach would just be to have a very tight moving stop loss, so that if we did start to turn around, you know, you could potentially secure your profits. But again, that's not financial advice. That's just me doing what I do. And next we will go and jump over to Enjin Bitcoin, which we have been watching. Enjin is one of the channel's favorite coins. We really like the things that Enjin are doing, think that they've got a place in the future here. with cryptocurrency. They're approaching the gaming sphere with the NFTs. They've got a very viable working product, and they could very easily be one of the projects which actually help to make cryptocurrency more mainstream because of their target demographic, because of their product delivery and their integration into pre-existing technologies. Enjin is very exciting. And on that note about integration with pre-existing technologies, I'm sure you guys will have seen the video that Matic released, I believe it was yesterday or perhaps the day before, regarding the Enjin announcement with the Microsoft team there, making NFTs for badges for contributors for Microsoft. Now, we've all kind of, if you're a fan of Enjin, you've known about this for quite a long time because they've been there. Sashwat has been sharing those on the Altcoin Buzz Twitter feed, so you could have picked up that this was going on for several weeks now. But when it became official, Enjin made an announcement saying, look guys, these are for real. These are Microsoft NFTs. They're for good contributors for the Microsoft team, and they can, I think they're a Badger, if I'm not mistaken. They're Badger badge. But anyway, but so it looks like the market reacted, but it's not just fundamentally driven. If you remember back from the videos previously, we were watching this tightening range develop, and we were also focusing on the chances of this range becoming a springboard breakout, and that is exactly what we saw. We came up, we broke back down, we saw no clear break of the range. We did actually drop down below it, but on the next day we very quickly got back above the resistance line. And then all it did there was tick along for a couple of days, accumulation mode, and then absolutely exploded. If you had entered on the springboard breakout that we were discussing the potentials of, you could have seen a maximum profit so far of 94.6%, which isn't a too bad return. Yeah, so not too bad. Like I said at the beginning of the video, remember, not everyone always gets everything right. No one's perfect. But on this occasion, we've seen some nice returns off our charting analysis, which is always a really nice thing to see. And of course, if you are an active trader, it's good for your portfolio balance too. So let's go on to another altcoin where I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern, which I think is worth paying attention to. Wouldn't say it's quite as clearly defined as what we've seen there on Enjin or Matic personally, but actually I am still quite interested in it. And this is Voyager. You can find Voyager on the trading pair Bitcoin, I think maybe USDT as well on Binance, possibly just Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm not sure, to be honest. However, this is the Bitcoin pairing that we're looking at here. So it's BQX BTC. And this is the daily chart, and what I'm focusing in on here is a potential falling wedge pattern. We have discussed the falling wedges before. Of course, we've seen it over there on the Bitcoin chart and how these support and resistance lines can become very defined and very important. And yeah, we're seeing one potentially develop here for Voyager, BQX. And you can see that we've had our top point here. You can even play it back there, but then we've broken down. And we've bounced within the range, not quite got up to the resistance line again there, but we've got a couple of good touches. 1, 2, that's pretty close. That's fairly close to be within the zone. 3, and actually, look how easy. Sorry, I say easy, but when you sort of get used to seeing these charts, you start looking at these trades and these selling points. I mean, that's a pretty clear sell signal, isn't it? You can see that triangle I'm forming there with the cursor and that line. As soon as you broke towards that green line, exit. Go and buy at a cheaper price, right? You've seen that support. Like I was discussing about Bitcoin. In fact, let me just show you exactly what I mean there. So you can see that line that I'm discussing that had become a clear support line. 1, 2, 3 touches there. We can define that line and see that it's a bit of a game-changing point, right? And here you see, again, on the Bitcoin chart, you can see the same thing. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, a few little bounces here. This becomes a very important line. If it breaks, then we know that we're expecting downwards momentum. If, however, we see a big bounce candle off that, we can often consider that to be quite a bullish thing. So, just it doesn't always play out perfectly, but just look for these things, look for these patterns, look for these things that emerge, because patterns have a habit of repeating themselves, and they can be profitable if you can learn to recognize patterns. You're never going to get everything perfect, but just plug away, keep going, keep looking for things. And, you might start seeing things that that are repeatable and profitable. So here is that falling wedge pattern, and you can see that we are very, very close to this resolving, and we have, I mean, the lines may not be exactly perfect, but we are certainly in the area of testing and breaking through this upper resistance line. Now, there's a few things that excite me about this pattern other than just the falling wedge itself. Well, what am I talking about? Let's start by jumping into this, and we've got our stochastic RSI looking to bounce above the 40 zone. This can be really, really bullish when you see these bull crosses of the stochastic RSI in this middle zone, because what it's showing you is there's quite good strength in the move. It's not being allowed to fall too greatly, and it's bouncing high, and that could be quite a nice sign. We've also got on the RSI, quite perfectly drawn, let's just get those lines right. As you can see here on the RSI, whilst we've been in this falling wedge formation, this is the same time period of the falling wedge, we've got this higher lows on the RSI. That's showing us that the relative strength is increasing every time it drops down. So really interesting and worth paying attention to. You can see the bottom point of the RSI was here. And as we've travelled through this falling wedge, the relative strength index has got higher and higher and higher. Only incrementally, not huge amounts. This is something that you really have to look for, but it is there. So it'd be really interesting to see what this does next. And I think that I think that this could break up to the upside again. It's just my personal approach. You'd be looking at your first targets would be here on this high volume node, which is at about 450 satoshis. Let's put some target lines on this, and if it does break up, we'll be able to see how these target lines behave. So let's put a target line here for 450-ish satoshis. There we go, 454. We're going to put another target line at this. I like this point here. This looks quite significant here at 580. You can see we've seen resistance from wicks. We've seen a support zone as well on several occasions. And I would then go on to say that if we were to break that 580 area, we could be looking as high as the next really big important line. Could be around the 670 area. That's somewhere around there. 775. That's been quite an important area, and again a break of that, and we are going to be looking seriously bullish. But don't wait until 775 to enter. That would be my personal approach, not financial advice. But if this starts to really gain some momentum, we could see these targets met within a few weeks. Who knows? Let's keep an eye on it. We'll jump down to the 4-hour chart and see if we can see any indication here of where we might go a little bit more short term. Here on the 4-hour, we are actually seeing our stochastic RSI very high. Relative strength index has yet to really push on be around the 50 zone for any substantial periods of time. You can see it was here for a little while when we jumped from the bottom back up to the top of this this range. And actually, I think this range is even more prominent on the 4-hour chart. I think you can actually see it a little bit better here. And actually, maybe we can get our lines a little bit neater. We could probably just widen this to a... There we go. Get that line a bit too much. You could probably put it... Yeah, somewhere in that area, So we're not quite there yet, just yet. Not quite testing the top end of it, but you can see that it looks a little bit tidier on the 4-hour chart. We can line up off these higher wicks a bit better. And when you do that, you start getting a different perspective of how this wedge could play out. But the point is, this tightening range is getting tighter and tighter, and we are very much reaching a crescendo point. Our stochastic RSI is quite high on the 4-hour, so there's a good chance that that may swing back down low again before we see any real resolution to this pattern. If you were the sort of person who wanted to try and get the cheapest buy possible, who knows, you might be able to get in here down at the 300 zone over the next day or two if we are to see a drop down from BQX before it retests the upper resistance. But it's difficult to tell because there's also that other chance that it could just take off more people could start to spot this pattern, and they could force the breakout. So yes, I think that's worth watching. Now, finally, guys, for charting, I just want to take us back to here is our altcoin dominance chart. Now, we visited this a few videos back when we started to see some of the altcoins move. We were saying, well, what's the chance of us seeing an altcoin run happening right now? And what we were discussing was this tightening range that we had forming here on the weekly altcoin market dominance chart, and saying that this was really going to be fundamentally very key to determining whether or not we were going to see the altcoins crash further, or if we were going to see an uptick in the dominance and therefore the valuation of many of the altcoins. Well, we continue to travel within the tightening range. Interesting to see that we did, over the last month, go up and test the upper end again. However, there are some bad indicators. There are some good indications here. So let's start with our good indication. The initial good indication is that our key support hasn't broken yet. Remember, this support goes all the way back to 2014. This support, sorry about this. This could very easily be nothing to take huge account to, because it's the Bitcoin against altcoin dominance markets. You know, you take this with this chart with a pinch of salt. It's not absolutely perfectly going to tell you what's going to happen. But what it is going to do is give you a good indication of the real emotion towards altcoins in the market at the moment. You know, we break this and then we can see that the emotion is just not as high as it has been for a long time. So we're yet to break that line. So that is a good sign. One sign that I don't like so much is that we have here seen us go up and double top slightly. Now, for me, that double top reversal, continuation to the downside isn't confirmed until we break this support line. So at the moment, it's not too bad. In my personal opinion, I think there's a good chance that we go on to test this line once more. But again, if we see a trend, we overlay it. So let's put this support line in here that we can see. And as you can see, off that, from the previous wick back there in September and our other touch of this line in October, we could very much be at a very key point over the next week or so for the altcoins here. You can see the sell-off volume has decreased. It'd be interesting to see if this gets support off this line. That could be one of the first indications for us that the bulls are about to really start steaming in for the altcoins, and we might start seeing that huge 66% Bitcoin dominance start to come back. Listen, guys, I hope